Hello there, my name's Colin Claassen from Scalable Data Systems. Today I'd like to talk to you about Advanced Production Scheduling, an add-on module for the Dynamics AX solution. During this session, the focus will be on the changes that have been made to the standard AX planning solution to enable you to highlight areas of improvement within your schedule. One of the critical areas of improvement in any schedule is often based around setup time reduction. Setup time in a production facility contributes nothing to the bottom line of the organization. It simply allows you to produce products having shifted from one type of product to another, or from one size product to another, etc. So one of the key focus areas for the APS solution from Scalable is the ability to actually build a matrix and then remove automatically or reduce as much as possible the amount of setup time and clean down time in between production orders. This is the home screen for production schedulers. The key difference from the standard AX solution is the addition of a number of extra features. Firstly, you'll notice on the bottom half of the screen a Workcenter job list. This simple addition is important for production schedulers because whilst it's easy to drag and drop, and it's very nice to have the drag and drop capability, the fact is that often a list is much easier to understand, comprehend, and manipulating the orders in the list is actually simpler. On the right hand side of the screen at the bottom, you'll also notice a number of additional buttons. The idea with these buttons is that it brings together functionality which is available in parts of AX, but it brings it to the central screen where you're looking at this single production schedule view. So for example, you can highlight an order, you can shift it up and down, you can link through to the scheduling form, you can delete orders, you can change the quantity, and you can also aggregate common orders as well. For those times where you have multiple orders for the same item, you have the option of highlighting one or two of them and placing them together in a single aggregated order. The other button you'll notice there is called the Advanced Schedule button, and that's the one that we'll talk about in a little while as we go through the options regarding the setup time matrix, etc. The starting point for the Scalable Data Systems APS process is in fact going back and setting up scheduling groups and attributes. These provide the basis of the data that will be used in the advanced scheduling process. So let's start at the foundation. The first level in the matrix setup process is called the scheduling group. As you can see on the screen here, I've highlighted a scheduling group at the top of the screen, and from there we can go down to the bottom part of the screen and see the different changeover times applicable for this particular scheduling group. So in this particular case, if we change from bins to tanks, then we have half an hour of cleaning and 1 hour of setup time for a total of 1.5 hours. If we go from tank to tank, there's only a quarter of an hour clean time required, no setup time. Always remembering that setup time is non-productive and doesn't add to the bottom line of a factory. So we start with this first level definition and then we proceed on to dealing with the actual attributes themselves in the coming slides. The second level in the process is what we call the scheduling attributes. In this particular example, we're looking at the bin mold, or the mold for a plastic bin production. In the lower part of the screen, we can define that when we switch from, for example, a 250 litre to a 100 litre bin at any of the work centres in the 001 group, then we will incur 0.1 hour setup time and 0 clean time. If we go from 350 to 100, then we will incur 0.1 and 0.2 for a total of 0.3 hours. This matrix of setup times is fundamental for the advanced scheduling aspect of the solution. It would follow logically that if you're changing from 100 to 100, there would be no additional time required. However, you may have issues such as melt temperatures or colors that you need to take into account, and within the AX solution you have the option of putting up to 5 different scheduling attributes in the matrix. So as we can see here, I talked about the situation regarding color changes. So in a typical color environment, you always want to go from light to dark, not dark to light. If you go from dark to light, you have color bleeding or flavor bleeding if you're in a food and beverage environment, for example. So therefore, if you have the matrix established correctly, this will give you that advanced level of capability. So this is in addition to the capability of the mold size. We can also then add plastic color or flavor or other types of scheduling attributes. And as we highlight one in the top part of the screen, we'll see the lower portion of the screen automatically change over for us. Now that we've established the setup time matrix and the options available in there for scheduling groups and scheduling attributes, it's now time to have a look at the Gantt chart and see how it comes into play. When we click on the menu option to initiate the Gantt chart view, we have a choice of what we want to look at from a scheduling perspective and also the number of days that we want to look at. So in this particular case, I'm going to choose the APS Gantt chart view, which I've set up for 7 days. This gives us a choice whether we want to look at single resources, multiple resources, or indeed all the resources within our scheduling environment. The final question in the initiation of the Gantt chart view is, for what particular starting point do you want to nominate? It's not critical as to which starting point you nominate, because you can of course slide the chart backwards and forwards in time, but it's logical for you to be planning or scheduling for next week, next month, or indeed tomorrow. So you get the opportunity to set your starting point at this stage. This is a view of the Gantt chart with all of the features that I described in the earlier slides. On the right hand side, you can see there the up, down, schedule, advanced schedule, delete, change production and aggregate quantities options. The detail that's shown at the top of the screen is user definable. In this case, I'm viewing 1 day at a time, and the resources that are in play are displayed on the left hand side. The colors of information on the Gantt chart themselves are actually reflecting, in this case, the items that are being scheduled. You have setup choices available to you, such as orders which are in production, orders which are awaiting production, etc. By clicking on the setup button, you can make changes to what's shown and how detailed the view is. Immediately from the Gantt chart view that we're looking at here, it's easy to see that some of our resources are fully loaded and others have somewhat sporadic workload. The grayed out area is the downtime in terms of the end of shift, and in my case I'm looking at an 8-hour shift per day. If we drill into one of the work centers, we'll see the next level of detail. So let's explode 00102 as an example. Now that we've exploded out the detail for the work center 00102, we can see that there are a number of jobs and a number of operation steps within each of those. So we have setup time, process time, queue before, queue after, etc. Where those steps are linked, you'll actually see an arrow joining the jobs together as they go down and through in time. If you don't wish to see the individual time exploded out in separate steps, then there are options in the view process to change that to just look at it from a summary point of view. In my case, I want to see the setup time and the view time details, etc., because that's what we're going to focus on, removing and reducing that setup time. In order to highlight the point that I'm trying to make regarding the setup time reduction process, I've now switched to view 00101, and from here we can see that the first job actually has 4 hours of setup time. The bottom part of the screen has an additional feature called a late icon, showing in my case that all my orders are late. I'm not a very good production scheduler from that perspective. In the left-hand corner, the lower left-hand corner of the screen, we can see the attributes which have been set up against a particular item. So item number 1171 is a 1000 litre tank mould and a plastic colour of green. If we slide the screen across at the bottom, we'll see the sequencing columns which can be used to sequence production orders simply by sorting the column as per standard AX functionality. In order to see what's on the right hand side of the screen in this case, I need to slide the bar across. In a normal environment, you would be using a monitor large enough to enable you to see all of the information on a single screen. As you can see, simply by sliding the scroll bar across the screen, we can now see the additional sequencing columns, numbers 4 and 5. The values in these columns are aligned to the 5 attribute fields in the bottom left-hand corner. So as I said, the first line has a sequence column 1 equals 1000 litre mold size. Sequence column 2 is the color, which is green. Remembering, of course, that these attributes and their values are attached to the items in the beginning phase of setup, and of course they're user definable. I've now returned the image to the left-hand side of the lower portion of the screen and clicked on the scheduling group field, which has then sorted all the orders in that particular work center, in this case into the tank and bin scheduling group sequence. If we then click on the schedule button, we can lock in this change and have AX do the work for us. Following the scheduling operation, we then need to run the refresh option for the top half of the screen. I've already done that, and now we can see that we have a completely different sequence of orders going through the particular work centers. By using the Setup View Change option on the upper portion of the screen, I've now changed the sequence to show production orders going through the multiple stages rather than looking at an individual resource. This view gives us a much better indication of the progress of an order through the production facility. In particular, we're looking at order number 5099 followed by 5100, and we can see that we have an extraordinarily long setup time associated with this at the moment. What we're going to do now is take advantage of the additional features in this solution and run the advanced scheduling option as per the matrix setup that we created in the initial part of the presentation. When we run the advanced scheduling option, we're presented with a screen that offers us the opportunity to nominate the particular scheduling group that we wish to start with, and if necessary, even down to the attribute values that we want to start. This is particularly important given that you may have alternative cycles that you produce product in, and in this case we're looking at nominating the tank group first of all. When we execute this particular scheduling function, it will then run through the matrix, identify areas where there is potential to remove or reduce the setup time, and produce a new schedule which will be optimized and show that impact of that reduced setup time. Having executed the advanced scheduling option, we can now refresh the top part of the screen and see the results. In this particular case, we now have a sequence of orders from 5099 to 5117, and we can see visibly on top of the screen that we have no setup time. This is exactly what we were looking for in terms of our schedule. The aim, again, as I stated up front, is to remove or reduce setup time wherever possible. So that concludes the session on advanced production scheduling, and I hope that this has been of benefit to you. In summary, we went through and looked at the options available to us from the Gantt chart in what I call the Gantt chart plus environment, where we have the list of production orders available, some additional functionality in terms of being able to change, delete, consolidate orders, and also looked at the setup capabilities around how to establish scheduling groups and the sequencing matrix associated with identifying the possibility of removing and or reducing setup time. This being one of the key benefits of an advanced production scheduling option is effectively increasing throughput without increasing investment in facilities. Thank you very much for your time.